It was a very physical performance, very physically challenging.
Morbius is finally out after a whopping 6 delays. So let's take a look at what was up behind the scenes all this time. Hopefully, Jared Leto managed to not gift his co-star a live rat, or bat, in a box. Number 1. Everybody's doing prosthetics? Well, I've just gotta be special then. Most people prefer to use practical effects like prosthetics. Originally, that was going to be the case for Morbius, but Jared Leto had other ideas. He pushed incredibly hard to have the vampire all done through motion capture, so that his acting ability wasn't limited to the motions of the prosthetics. The motion capture tech they used was the same that was used for Thanos. Visual effects supervisor Matthew E. Butler said, "There's limitless potential using some of these new technologies. So it's interesting to be part of that and to push the envelope." They had Leto done up in an array of dots with a camera mounted onto a helmet on his head to capture the subtleties in the actor's expressions. The software can translate Leto's performance into the performance of a creature that is completely different. Since it was all done using CGI, nobody had actually seen the face of Morbius until the very end, so we had to use our imaginations.
I had to be quite patient.
Leto felt he'd taken a huge leap of faith relying on the CGI department. Number 2. Somebody give Morbius a Snickers. Jared Leto is attracted to transformative characters because he finds they are challenging to pull off.
It's like kind of tailored for me.
Getting in shape for the role was very physically demanding.
It was very, very demanding. I mean, I was just shattered at the end of every day.
Leto wasn't all that affected, having to lose all that weight to portray the sickly form of Dr. Morbius, though.
I don't actually get hangry because I do a lot of fasting.
He went from zero to anti-hero pretty quick, too. He likes that it's this big Marvel movie with action and adventure, but it also walks on the darker side of the universe.
I liked as well that there's a Jekyll and Hyde.
At times, it is quite scary, which makes it very different. He got to play the sick and frail Dr. Morbius and the healthy and jacked form, and then the monstrous version. Number 3. We wouldn't want to share the screen with Jared Leto, knowing behind the scenes he's trying to get that jump scare. Not a lot can scare Leto, but he sure likes to scare others.
I'm definitely known to hide around the door and whoosh.
Don't we know it from his time on set as the Joker? Live rats, dead pigs, sent to set by the vegan himself. Sounds like he tailors his pranks to the movies, so who knows what kind of vampire stuff he was up to during Morbius. Number 4. Inspiration can come from anywhere. When it came to echolocation, the team was hoping to go in a different direction than anyone's ever taken. There tends to be a trend among media that it's portrayed as a dark room with a burst of light going through it. Well, for Morbius, they got their inspiration from anime, and not just any anime. They got it from Pokemon of all places. How wild is that? Pokemon, gotta catch 'em all. And Morbius is number 472 in the Pokédex. Look it up if you don't believe us. Number 5. Do you think the people filming on their cell phones broke non-disclosure agreements? Manchester was made up to look like New York, and we quite appreciate that Barry Aird is getting makeup applied to the top of his head. Hi, sorry, we think we're lost. We were looking for where Morbius was filming, not Doctor Who. And while you peruse the footage, now seems like a good time to mention that Morbius is directed by Daniel Espinosa and written by Matt Sazama and Burke Sharpless. Action. Now, imagine if you were stuck in New York traffic and you could just yell, "Action," and all the traffic would suddenly get moving. What a dream. Number 6. Sometimes you can bring something to a character, and sometimes a character brings something to you. Martine definitely taught Adria a lot about herself as a person.
She definitely taught me a lot. She taught me to sort of speak my mind.
She's unsure if the people around her like it now, but she really likes it, and that's all that matters.
There's parts about her that I love, and there's parts about her that I definitely had to work on and sort of create.
Matt Smith finds the most joyous experience of being an actor is that
you get to sort of recalibrate and rewire yourself and focus and think in an entirely different way.
Number 7. Leto is an interesting actor. Yep, interesting. That's a good way to describe him. He's also a very dedicated actor. He doesn't break character while he's on the set, but director Daniel Espinosa is the first to admit that Leto isn't the only one in Hollywood to do this.
Denzel Washington also doesn't break character while he's shooting.
That's an odd thing to say in an interview, no? It almost sounds like he's not the biggest fan of Leto.
I was in a Jared sandwich and it was wonderful.
Matt Smith, on the other hand, is of course talking about both Jared Leto and Jared Harris. Both are fabulous actors with very different processes. So says Matt. Number 8. To be big or not to be big? That's a goofy question. Go big or go home. Matt Smith feels that the story of Morbius is like Shakespeare because you can make bold choices, because the universe in itself is quite big.
In many ways, you can be a bit bigger.
As Matt put it, so you can be quite bold with the brushstrokes that you throw at the canvas, as it were.
Want of a less boring analogy.
Number 9. Somebody hand Morbius a towel. The epic Morbius costume was abandoned, at least for now. After talking about it, they decided it just wasn't going to happen for a first film. Leto does think that there are some pretty great examples in the early comics, and ideas of where they could go in the future if they suited up.
That could be a lot of fun, actually.
He likes a lot of those costume elements. Number 10. Research for a Marvel film would be fun. You just get to kick back and read comics. How great is that?
And the artwork for me was a great source of inspiration.
Leto looked at everything. He finds that's what's great about the characters. That there's so much material to dive into, and it's such a rich world. He read everything he could.
I talked to doctors and scientists and, did the research and...
Leto really enjoys that part of the process. He loves to dive in and do that preparation. Number 11. It's always good to have a friend on the inside. Matt Smith's Doctor Who co-star Karen Gillan, of course, played a large role in the MCU, Nebula, and she is obsessed with her role, despite all the time that goes into prosthetics. Well, when Matt Smith was given the offer, he phoned Gillan to ask what her experience was like, and she said, go for it. Number 12. The future is uncertain. Or Leto is lying to us. If audiences enjoy the character and the film, Leto is more than happy to come back. He's thrilled about the potential of the Sinister Six getting together. But Morbius is a spin-off of Spider-Man, so...
I think Morbius, Spider-Man, that's a meeting that has to happen.
But the questions are there. Which Spider-Man? What universe is Morbius existing in? Nobody really thought he would be brought to the cinema for a while, so there's a lot on the table right now. What excited me the most about playing Morbius was the fact that he has never been on screen before.
Fun times.
Morbius looks spooky, but vampires are a pretty hard sell nowadays.
I'm glad that we ended up in that place.
They really missed their prime with this one, when it should have premiered in the early 2010s. Either way, better late than never. Do you think Jared Leto was good casting for Morbius?
And he's a good person, and that's interesting to play that.
After his time playing the Joker, it's a bit surprising he's taken up a Marvel role at all. But he thinks their rivalry encourages great art and also gets him awesome jobs. So what does he care? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and thanks for hanging out with us here at The Things.